Hello and welcome to the Pacific Business Brokers video blog. My name is Tim Quarles and I'm here to discuss the use of multiples in transactions involving small and medium-sized businesses. Multiples are so commonly used in business valuation that sometimes it's without a full understanding of the underlying logic, a bit like putting the cart before the horse. To help explain, let's look at the meaning of the word multiple as it relates to business transactions. A multiple is a financial ratio resulting from dividing the sale price of a business by a suitable performance metric, such as annual earnings or even revenue. It's important to highlight that multiples are market-driven ratios derived from actual historic transactions. The performance metric is the denominator in this multiple calculation and usually expressed as earnings or cash flow or possibly free cash flow. During analysis, it's important to be consistent so we aren't comparing apples to oranges. Since cash flow can be derived a few different ways, the resulting multiples will vary, and therefore we want to make sure the appropriate denominator is used. A few weeks back, I discussed two of the most common ways to express earnings, EBITDA and SDE. You may want to have a look at that video for an explanation of each. To illustrate the math for calculating a multiple of earnings, say a company sells for $1 million and has earnings of $200,000. We can say the deal has transacted at a 5 times earnings multiple, since $200,000 goes into $1 million 5 times. We can use this logic to try to establish a value of similar but yet unsold companies. It's logical to assume that businesses that are very similar would sell for a similar price, and also that businesses that are more or less profitable can be valued using the multiple from the previous sale. In this way, a seller or buyer might think that a similar company that is less profitable and only earning, say, $100,000 would be worth $500,000 using the same 5 times earnings multiple used earlier. So essentially, we can solve for X and determine the business value by applying a historic multiple to the company's earnings. The assumption being that the market has set the price for any future transactions for like businesses. The challenge in using this comparative company analysis is that it can take some experience to adjust a subject company's performance so that the comparables are relevant. Often this step is overlooked or given only cursory attention. Obviously, no two companies are exactly alike, and the comparisons can be tricky, especially if there are a wide range of multiples from previous transactions, along with other factors such as changing economic conditions and performance. Over time, many transactions in many different industries allow us to observe averages of multiples that evolve into rules of thumb. Caution should be exercised in using multiples without analysis on the individual business and the market. All too often, industry multiples are used without regard for the differences in those companies being compared. This leads to gaps that develop in the owner's selling price and the price that a buyer will pay. The gap can widen if the buyer and/or the seller are set on using multiples that are not even industry specific. Simply extrapolating the value of a business using a 3 or 4 or even 5 times multiple based on a company's cash flow is like putting the cart before the horse, unless the multiple was based on proper comparable company analysis. For a purchaser looking to buy a business, I sometimes flip the discussion around and focus on their required annual return on investment. A multiple of earnings can be implied by taking the reciprocal of this ROI percentage. So a 33% return could be said to be a 3 times multiple, since the reciprocal of 33% or 1/3 is 3. A 25% ROI equates to a 4 times multiple, and a 20% return implies a 5 times multiple. The multiple essentially equals the period in years required to recoup the original investment. This approach can help provide a reality check for buyers and sellers when comparing valuation methodologies. It's clear that multiples are used widely by experienced practitioners as they allow for quick math in discussions of business valuation. But be wary of using multiples without consideration for the underlying logic. Make sure you take the time to educate yourself and that you are not putting the cart before the horse.